Yes, I'd like to second the statement.
All right, now I will open this up to discussion, if any. You can raise your hand, or if you're not able to do that, just say next, and I'll put you in order if there's any discussion. Catherine Hines is first. She raised her hand.
Thanks, Sean. Motions. And I'm coming at this as a professional communicator, for one thing. I have some sort of specific editorial things that I can pass on privately, because there are several typos and grammatical errors in this, and I know we want to clean that up. I thought that it was really well thought out, and the recommendations were solid and very reasonable. I think there's a glaring omission in the recommendations that sort of lies at the heart of what has gone on the last few weeks, the last few years. And I think we need to figure out how to learn more about unconscious bias. That we all have.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to ask you to pause for 1 second. Art, if you could help me locate anyone that is not muted. There's some other sounds coming in. And
all right.
I'm sorry, Catherine. Go. I'm sorry, Catherine. Go ahead.
That's okay. I think that there needs to be some training on the part of the Legislative Council around unconscious bias, something that we all engage in unknowingly. And I say this after having spent a week with my Trumpy relatives out in California, where I was encountering a lot of it and trying to do some education of my own. I think that's really important, and it's not referenced anywhere. I also think from a communication perspective that the statement can be tightened considerably by not chunking out the too long sections that are quoting previous documents that are out that we could link to, and it would make the entire document more concise and approachable, as it were. And I think that's it. You know, I haven't commented on this whole sad situation publicly for a lot of reasons. I like and respect everyone involved. And it was really disheartening to see how, you know, how we tend to rip ourselves apart. There are a lot of bigger issues that we need to be attending to. And I would like to see us have those conversations, but we can't really talk to each other if we don't address the big elephants in the room. And I think those are really about unconscious bias. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And actually, if you don't mind, and if everyone is in agreement without objection, Catherine, can you make a motion that you can send me? You said there's some typos in there, so if you could send, I didn't catch them myself, unfortunately, and so, but that does happen. So if you could just send me what those typos are, because I think obviously everybody would want any typos corrected, and so I would ask for a motion that you know, with my judgment, using my judgment, that any typos that she sends me that we correct as the final document. Catherine, can you make a motion along those lines?
Do you want me to move that I send you my?
Yeah.
And, you know, they always say that doctors bury their mistakes and lawyers incarcerate theirs, and people who write things for publication publish them for everyone to see and make fun of. So you can't proofread something too often. I'd be happy to move to send you my suggested edits and corrections of the grammatical and typographical mistakes.
All right, and will someone make a second for that?
Second.
Are there any objections? All right, without objection, we will pass that. Thank you. All right, next up is Mendy.
Catherine, thank you for bringing that up about unconscious bias. I think that's really important. In this whole situation, I also have not spoken out one way or another. It's just not my nature to do so anyway. But it's really gotten me thinking. And reading through the statement several times over, I kind of feel like we're contributing to the fire. I kind of feel like we are, by some of our own reactions, either to others in mass text or through social media. Some of our own responses have been, I don't know the right word to use, but I feel like it's made me just kind of look at ourselves more and about how we're reacting and how we are treating everybody involved, not just the two major players in this. So I just kind of have an open question. As a DTC, do we have our own kind of moral guidelines that we hold ourselves to, that we have to be held to? Because I feel kind of wrong about prescribing these solutions to other people if they're not solutions or they're not things that we're willing to follow ourselves. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mandy. And sorry, I believe Cassie has her hand up.
So Sean, I think we should at least respond to Mendy just because of.
Okay, would you like to say something? What would you like to say?
Yeah, I would, because we do have a code of ethics for the DTC, yes, which we've passed. And when this was first brought up, I said, well, why don't we just follow our policy by the code of ethics? And the reason that we didn't is because she's not a member of the DTC, so it doesn't apply to her. But the standards that we're applying are the standards that we have established for ourselves. And
yes, I think that's exactly right. Thank you, Art, for saying that. And Cassie.
Hey, folks. So first, I want to address Catherine's comments in terms of unconscious bias training. I think one thing that's really important to keep in mind is that overall, one thing to really keep in mind is that this isn't the first misstep in terms of racism and doubling down that Valerie Horsley has made. And there have been a number of times when she has been educated and she has been talked to about unconscious bias and about upholding some of these standards of white supremacy that we see within all of our institutions. And I fully support when, like, white folks are gonna mess up around racism. And I think that we need to call one another in. My issue with what has happened is that Valerie has been called in on a number of occasions and has been called in by white folks. She's been called in by Black leaders in our community. And rather than checking her own unconscious bias and rather than checking her own behaviors and changing them, she doubles down. And then in this instance, she doubled down, called in her tribe of women to attack a young Black man. And I think we really need to pay attention to that. This isn't about unconscious bias because she has been educated around unconscious bias, and every single time that she makes a misstep, she doubles down. So I just want to address that. Also, when you said we have bigger issues to focus on, I agree that we have lots of issues to focus on, but I don't think racism against one of our council members is a small issue, especially when it's a council member, one of the very few council members who is on our legislative council. And so I think among a group of Democrats who consider themselves progressive, we really need to be paying attention to when racism shows up in our actions, in our language, and in our behavior. And so this is certainly an instance where I can't really say that, this is distracting from bigger issues. This is a big issue, especially because these types of actions happen are directed at Justin time and again. And then finally, yeah, I think in terms of moral guidelines, you're absolutely right. But I think one of those moral guidelines needs to be committing to anti-racism and being deliberately anti-racist. And when racism shows up in our actions, we need to be able to call each other in, and we need, as white folks, we need to be willing to change our behaviors. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Cassie. And next is Sana and then Rhonda.
Thank you, Cassie. I want to echo all your sentiments. Incredibly thoughtful. Definitely agree. Just something that I just want to name is there has been a lot of conversations on this idea that, you know, there's drama unfolding or there's unnecessary contention going on. And I think all of this is really important. And that's what happens when we power build and power share and move power, is that there is going to be a tension and it's going to be uncomfortable. And there's a lot of reactions that are going to happen. And that's what's necessary for change. And so all of this is a very good thing and things that we should step into in order to see the change that we want. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Thank you very much. Rhonda?
Hi, I just want to say that I agree with Cassie. This is all due respect, Catherine, but I feel that your comments were trivializing the letter and trivializing the incident. And I'm personally offended by your comments to say that, you know, to minimize them to just to grammatical and spelling errors. That's troubling to me. And then to say that there's other bigger items to deal with, I think those comments alone are indicative of the bias that's present in our culture. You know, we as Black people and we as, you know, myself and others who took up this charge to have Valerie Horsley take responsibility for her actions to mouth an F word to a fellow councilman during a meeting was not trivial. It was absolutely very important. It was very serious. It was a very serious infraction to a person who's already been told not to do that. Okay, so I'm personally offended that I have to now sit through a DTC meeting where someone can say that that was trivial and that we have other bigger items. Can you tell me what other item in the United States today is bigger than racism in our country? Okay, when Black men just like Justin Farmer are being shot at by the police all around our country every day. So I just want to just let everybody know that's how I feel right now.
Thank you, Rhonda. And, you know, yeah, so thank you. And next is Katie.